The goal is to keep honest people out, but more importantly, to keep your larger animals in. This is usually built more for horses or goats.
It is not ever done for goats. Goats would laugh as they got through this fence.
Like with the varying wood fence, expect to pay a little bit more to get this fence up.
A lot more. You would expect to pay a lot more for this fence.
Or if you're doing it yourself, you'll want to expect that it will take a little bit more time.
A lot more time. If I'm off base, tell me and I'll take it. But I just don't see the point in these fences.
Today's video is brought to you by our good friends over at Nationwide Industries, the Fence Pros' #1 choice. And they are this Fence Pros' #1 choice for a couple reasons. One, we love using their Keystone Traverse latches. They're easy to install. You simply bolt them onto the post. No drilling for rods or cutting the rods required. It's a pretty straightforward installation process. We also love using their full line of galvanized hardware. It shows up quickly and reliably.
All right, guys, today's video is titled 10 Stylish Wood Fence Ideas for Your Backyard from the Backyardscape YouTube channel. If you'd like to watch the entire video without my commentary, we will link the original video in the description below. Let's go. All right, so we're off to a good start. Couple puppies in a wood fence. How could you make this any better? We're already off to a good start. My granddad used to say it, but the more fence folks I talk to, I think everyone's granddad used to say this. The 3 things that keep a fence company in business: kids, pets, and neighbors. Bad neighbors, usually.
You are the worst neighbor in the world.
So here we are. Prime example, couple puppies in a fence.
In this video, we'll look at 10 inspiring wood fence ideas to add security and privacy to your backyard. Wood fences are the easiest way to get a fence around your property. They're easy to manufacture in panels or in planks, so you can purchase everything you need from your local hardware store and have a new wooden fence up by the weekend's end.
I think this is a bit of a misconception. I see lots of DIY fences that were intended to be done by the end of the weekend. Typically, they drag out for several weeks. I just say that it is definitely a DIY-able. Is that a DIY-able project? Go into it with the idea that it could take a while, but if you take your time and you pay attention to the details, it will still look great. I'll also differ a little bit maybe from this opinion in that I would stay away from the pre-built panels. Any sort of terrain variation you can accommodate by building your fence on that terrain. That makes sense. With a pre-built panel, you just typically don't have that idea. And I know, I can hear the comments already.
Joe, you can slope pre-built panels.
I know, I've seen them, I understand. Here in the Midwest, where we have varying terrain, it's hard to get it to look really right.
Among all fence types, the cost can be some of the least expensive out there.
I don't think that's accurate. Well, it depends what you're comparing it to, I guess. But there are typically less expensive types of fencing if we're talking about just general categories. Wood fencing, depending on the style you go with, can be fairly expensive. I mean, for example, so the least expensive wood fence we do would be like a 4-foot spaced picket, but it's still going to come in more expensive than like a 4-foot chain link. Even 4-foot color coded chain link, black chain link typically blends into the surroundings pretty easily. It disappears, if you will. Still a good alternative you could get for less than a 4-foot picket fence. Don't go into it thinking it's going to be the cheap option, but it is a very nice option.
The first one is a wood panel fence. The wood panel fence is one of the least expensive wood fences to put up around your home. Since they come in panels, it's also easier to install in your backyard.
I think maybe she meant picket. This is the picture we're looking at, is a 4-foot tall spaced picket fence, wood panel fence. I'm not sure. That would probably describe all wood fences I'm thinking of at the moment, wood panel fence. So anyway, she's probably talking about a picket fence. So definitely the most economical of the wood fences, or one of the most economical versions of the wood fence.
Number 2 is varying width wood fence. These fence styles are very pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, it looks nice, right? So this is, I would guess it's probably a 6-foot tall horizontal. You'd probably call this a semi-privacy, right? You can obviously see through it, but it's also not completely spaced like a picket fence would be. I do like these. We're doing more and more horizontal fences in general. I like the idea of mix and matching widths of boards. The style that we seem to see more of, or that we're doing more of, is wider boards. You know, if it's a 6-foot fence, so wider, say 2x6s for the first 5 foot, and then the top foot and a half, we would do like 2x4s, kind of give it a little bit different look at that top of the fence. Turns out really nice. But horizontal fences are great, especially these mixed width boards.
Plus, if you hire a contractor to build this fence, it'll also cost more simply because it takes them longer to install.
I mean, this guy looks like he's probably building stairs or something. Maybe these are rafters. I don't know. I want to see what kind of fence this guy's building. I have a feeling it's probably not a fence.
Number 3, the Herringbone Style wood fence. This geometric beauty adds depth to your fence and draws your eyes differently.
This is coming from Pinterest, and sometimes they'll make a fence contractor cringe. This fence will be significantly more expensive than just a standard privacy fence. What we would do is probably build a demo panel and time ourselves to figure out how long we think it's going to take before, bidding an entire backyard of this. But I would say labor would probably be close to double that of a just normal privacy fence. If I were talking to a client, we'd have a long conversation on it. Is this exactly what they want?
Like with the varying wood fence, expect to pay a little bit more to get this fence up.
A lot more. You would expect to pay a lot more for this fence.
Or if you're doing it yourself, you'll want to expect that it will take a little bit more time.
A lot more time.
Number 4 is the shadow box wood fence. The shadow box is a classic upscale fencing.
Not a shadow box fence. I'm not sure what type of fence this is. I mean, it looks like a older privacy fence that the boards have gapped a little bit. They've shrunk just due to losing their moisture. It's common, but not a shadow box fence. I don't believe, just looking at this angle.
People love the look of this fence because it provides enough privacy, but it also allows air to circulate through your fence.
I hear this a lot, that shadow box fence allows your yard to breathe and it allows a breeze through your yard. If we're talking about a 6-foot fence, I don't know that air movement in your yard would be noticeably different with a privacy fence versus a shadow box. If the conversation is less likely to, be blown over in a storm, or it would have less wind load, but this whole thought about that it gives more air movement in the yard, I find it hard to believe that it would noticeably, measurably change the wind movement or the air movement in your yard.
The other big appeal for this type of fence is that there's no bad side to the fence. Since the boards are on alternating sides to the posts and rails, then both sides of the fence look great.
They're alternating, right? So both sides see some finished and some structure. If we're calling the structure the bad side, then you would share both the finished and the structure side. Both neighbors now see the structure. And one neighbor, depending on how it's built, one neighbor still gets the posts. Shadow box fences are also a nightmare to maintain. Grass and weeds will absolutely grow up in the gap between these two pickets. If we've got pickets on both sides of the fence, there will be a gap here. The grass and weeds will grow up in that gap, and it is a nightmare to try to keep those things clean. You end up spraying it or just trashing your fence trying to weed eat it. Also, staining it takes significantly more stain to try to get in all the nooks and crannies to do it right. When we're staining a shadow box fence, typically it's about twice as much as a privacy fence. A lot more labor to make sure we get all the details really right, and a lot more stain gets used trying to treat all of this surface area.
Number 5 is the picture frame fence. And similar to the shadow box fence, the picture frame fence is built in a way that both sides of the fence look the same.
See, the picture frame fence, I think this would be where you would talk about both neighbors get the finished side. I mean, I guess both neighbors obviously would probably still see the frame side, but the frame is built in such a way that it's a part of the fence. If we're talking about a fence that looks great on both sides, this would be that fence, with exception to the double-sided fence, of course.
Number 6 is the board-on-board wood fence. With the board-on-board, nothing is getting through this, and probably one of the best for privacy.
Yeah, it gives you ultimate privacy. When we build it board-on-board, we'll still space it like a shadow box fence. So we'll typically leave an inch on either side overlapped. The cover picket will then overlap the base picket, inch on both sides. So even as those boards lose their moisture and shrink up a little bit, you still don't have any gaps in this. It is the ultimate in privacy fencing.
Number 7, the horizontal wood fence.
So these would be just a uniform width board installed with the space. I really do like horizontal fencing, and I specifically like this where it's built with a bit of a space intentionally in it. wood is a natural product. It's going to lose moisture. It's going to shrink. By putting in a intentional gap, a half inch, nothing crazy, it can make that shrinkage of the board blend in.
Number 8 is the horizontal wood fence with metal accents.
I don't understand the trend of mix and matching wood with steel products. I don't think this is appealing. I don't think it makes sense financially to try to install it like this. Likely your cost is roughly going to be the same. I mean, anyway.
We love wood fences with metal accent look. It's pretty versatile style, and you can choose between several different metal sheets. Another bonus is you can reduce the overall cost of the fence just by using the metal, since wood for horizontal fencing can be pricier than the metal sheets.
I don't think this is true. Well, I guess it depends on the quality of the metal and the quality of the wood you're using. If you're using just like some base grade metal panels, but you're comparing it with a redwood horizontal fence, maybe you'd save some money, but I don't know. What do you guys think? If I'm off base, tell me and I'll take it. But I just don't see the point in these fences. I don't think they're stylish or attractive. They don't save money on the whole. So I don't understand mixing and matching materials.
Number 9, pallet fencing.
I understand the Pinterest tag says pallet fencing, but I don't think this is a pallet fence. I think this is just kind of a shadow box horizontal, but it doesn't look like the pickets actually overlap. I don't think it's a pallet fence. I've seen some pallet fences, and they typically look pretty awful, but I don't know. Let me know. What do you think? Do you think this is a pallet fence or not? I think this is a stick-built fence.
Having a zero-cost fence is great for some people. The pallet fence will be less about privacy and more about keeping a certain animal in or honest people out.
Nothing is zero cost. That bugs me. So with these pallet fence ideas, they're always about trying to save money. Build fence with free materials. Well, one, like you get what you pay for, right? Two, we did a review video or reaction video a little while ago with a guy that made a picket fence or tried to make a picket fence out of pallets. He spent, I can't tell you how much more time trying to get each cut right, cut each pallet apart, do some finishing work, do this, do that, and the other. I had to triple his labor. I mean, you spend so much time. So is it free? Really? And at the end of it, you still have a fence that looks like it was made out of free material, pallets found on the side of the road. I don't know that that's a great look.
And number 10 is the rail fence. The rail fence, or the rail horse fence, is less about privacy, more about security.
Less about privacy. It is 0% about privacy.
The goal is to keep honest people out, but more importantly, to keep your larger animals in. This is usually built more for horses or goats.
It is not ever done for goats. Goats would laugh as they got through this fence. Larger livestock, I get. This is shown with horses in it. When I was a kid, it was really big. Lately, it's not been, though, for equestrian, for horses. You can see some pretty bad accidents if you had horses get run through a fence like this. It's not great. Typically, you don't see this fence used so much with horses, cattle, okay? But, I mean, I think there's less expensive fence for just keeping agricultural animals in. Again, I would love to see someone try to keep a goat in with this fence. Well, guys, what do you think? 10 stylish wood fence ideas for your backyard. Were they stylish? Would you recommend them? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Until next time, Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors. And I'll see you next time.